Shut up and sit down.
Howdy guys, it's Andy from Big Mac's Workshop and Painting Studio, and today I'm painting a Leman Russ in rural camouflage. Start off on a black base. I'm using an airbrush, but obviously you can use this, do this by hand, and it's really easy to do by hand as well. As always, I use an airbrush just because it's a bit quicker, and I'm not using blue tack on this particular model as we didn't have access to any. So I'm going to show you how to use it. Do it with Mascol. So this first colour is Cayman Green, which is a Vallejo game colour paint, and I'm getting a regular pattern of sort of a roundish splodges. I'm using as reference material a Second World War German Panzer as my imagery, so I'm using colours similar to what was used on some of the German vehicles. Once I've got the first layer down, go over the top just to make sure it's nice and even, and then I use GW's Death Wall Forest as the highlight from about 45 degrees, and this just adds a little bit of extra colour to the green sections. Again, doing this by hand will be dead easy. You just need to I wouldn't suggest you do the highlight in the same way. I would just do all the highlights at the end using the Screaming Skull dry brush instead. Once you've got the second layer down now, go over the painted sections with either Mascol or blue tack. I'm using Mascol here because I couldn't find any blue tack, and it works really well. Actually, I was surprised. So I was improvising a little bit, but so long as you get plenty of the Mascol down, it'll protect the coats from the paint being lifted. So I'm doing a couple of thick layers of Mascol all over the paint, and then I'm going over with Rhinox Hide. Now I'm keeping the Rhinox Hide sections towards the edges of the green, so it's sort of like it surrounds the green sections wherever relevant. Again, I'm doing the same sort of thing, making some nice irregular splodges around the green sections, just breaking that black section up again, and getting a really interesting effect with that. So once I've got the Rhinox Hide down, I do the same again with flat brown, and just to add highlight and extra colour to the brown sections. And it's just a repeating process of doing the same sort of thing with 2 or 3 different colours. And as I said, I'm using a Second World War German Panzer as the inspiration. So it's I'm trying to keep it fairly true to what real world vehicles colours would look like from that particular era. Once again, add Mascol to the sections. Don't worry about going over the top of the other section, the green areas. It's just going to add additional protection to the paint, so that's not an issue. And it also, if you've got nice thick layers of Mascol, it does make it easier to peel the Mascol off, so don't worry about getting too much on there. And the next layer is Vallejo's Brown Sand. This is more of a tan colour, and this is going pretty much everywhere at this point. So you get it, you're getting a real sort of light brown coloured tank across everything. Again, you're not worrying about covering the Mascol. That's not a problem. The only reason to worry about that is if you're trying to conserve paint. Obviously, with an airbrush, it's not an issue, and you can just literally cover the entire thing in this new layer. Once I've got the brown sand down, I then went over as a highlight again with Talon Sand, which is a great colour for this. As you can see, certain areas of the Mascol have pulled a little bit. I'm not even the slightest bit worried about this because that's exactly what it's designed to do. Once you've got the Talon Sand down and it's had a chance to dry, start peeling up the Mascol, and this will start to reveal the really interesting camouflage pattern you've got built up on the model. So as you can see, I'm using a cocktail stick for this. It's perfect sort of thing. You want obviously you're building up the layers once it's dried, wherever possible. Although if you do go over it when it's a little bit damp, it's not a massive problem. So because I'm using mascal, you get sort of a scuffed sort of a ridge on some of the painting. So I'm using a soft sponge just to brush the sections where the paint would have just sort of lifted, just to brush it off, just to make that nice and smooth across the entirety of a model. So next is black. I'm using just any old black will do. This is the priming black, what we always use, and I'm just going across all the extra details with a couple of layers of black just to get it back to where it started from, so I can make an interesting paint job from a nice flat colour. And I'm doing this around all the detail work just to get that baseline work to work with. So next it is Unshabty Bone. I'm doing that on across all of the edges of the light brown. Now, as you can see, I'm using an airbrush on this. I'm just to I'm keeping the airbrush quite close to the model, so I'm not overspraying so much. I'm just pushing some highlights just towards the upper sections to really bring that model together. Now, as you can see, I'm just ever so slowly bringing that them highlights together. I'm using Death Guard Green at this point, and obviously that's on the green sections. I'm doing exactly the same thing with the Death Guard Green as I did with the Unshabty Bone, aiming towards the centre or the upper centres of the model, picking out them highlight sections, but trying to not overspray all over the model, as I don't want to diffuse the colours too badly. So now I'm adding Burnt Umber to the entirety of the model from underneath, and this is a great little colour for adding a little bit of wear and tear to the vehicle without actually making anything out of the ordinary. You can do this on pretty much any colour what's lighter than what's of a lighter sort of spectrum colour, and it just works really well against any sort of natural earth tones. And you just build up them layers ever so gently. Apologies for being slightly off camera there. Ever so gently from that 45 degree from below angle, and you can throw it into some of the detail work as well. And I've added a touch of black now just to really add extra depth to the inside of the model. As you can see, I'm just building that layer up from below, in and around the detail work as well, where the shading would naturally form. So a bit of silver now. I'm using Vallejo's Black Metal. As you can see, this is actually a really quick video. It's dead easy to do this model if you're doing it this way. I'm using black metal across all the silver work just to add a little bit of definition to all the hinges and any of the detail sort of sections. Across the light brown, I'm using an edge highlight of Thin Down Dead Flesh, which is a Vallejo paint. Witch Elf Pallid would work as well from GW. It's sort of a very light sort of greeny flesh tone. I'm just using that for the edge highlights across the model. Any sort of mistakes you make, just wipe it off before it sets, and just to bring them details nicely up to a real crisp point. The green is Undead Flesh, again done in the exact same way as the Dead Flesh. So Undead Flesh is a scale 75 paint, but I'm sure that GW's got a nice sort of a light green what you could use as well. As you can see, I'm using the edge of my brush. I'm not even worrying about the point at the minute, as I'm using the flat of the brush there. I'm just tidying up them colours just to bring them highlights up. So on the green, I'm just, again, as you can see, I'm just ever so gently picking out my detail work. I'm even going over some of the brown, and I'm using earth for the brown just to add a touch more highlights of the darker brown sections, and it just brings out the extra detail of the model. So at this point, I add a gloss varnish, and gunmetal onto the tracks. So once you get the gloss varnish down, you give it plenty of time to set, because this is where we start adding all the streak and grimes, etc. So I'm just dry brushing a bit of gunmetal onto the model where the tracks are, just to get that nice silver track finish across the model. Obviously you want to get a good quality finish on this. I'm just giving you a quick look on what I did for the purposes of this video. And now it's the streak and grime. This is the bit what really makes the tank look good. I'm using AK Interactive dark yellow streak and grime for this, and I'm just building up those lines where the vehicle would naturally sort of leak oil, and you just you throw it on very gently and let it dry and build up those layers until you've got what you think is an appropriate amount of grime, dirt build up. So now I'm using an old knackered brush. It's got a bit of white spirits on it, and I'm brushing against the flow of the streak and grime. And now it's all dried up, and what you get is a sort of diffused, natural look of grime and grit and dirt and oil from the locations where you've built them layers up. After that, before I throw on a varnish, it is an oil wash into the deepest recesses. I'm using artist grade thinners and black oil paint, and getting that all over the model. And if you get it the right thickness, you'll find you just need to dot the paint down, and it'll just send the paint beautifully around all the creases. Have to do very, very little work. As you can see, the oil paint is just moving all over the model. And there, once it's had a matte varnish, that is exactly what I painted. And there you are. That is a finished Leman Russ. Exactly how I painted it. No off-camera effects or anything like that. So a couple of thank yous to make. Obviously, we need to thank our Patreons, which are Joe Spearpoint, Rob Paints Models, Warren Brunsden, Lufwick Hofbauer, and the Orc Boys. Without their support, we couldn't be doing this. Obviously, thank you to all you guys watching. If you want to see more of this sort of stuff, check out our videos on our other videos on YouTube. We have a Patreon site, and we've just joined the 21st century and got a Twitter account now as well. We also have Facebook. And a massive thank you to the Outpost, which is in our affiliate links below, as they do a between 15 and 20% discount on pretty much all GW models and most models of various different ranges as well. So you can get a Leman Russ for a lot cheaper than you would normally pay if you go to GW. Anyway, thank you for watching this video, and if you like what you see, please hit like, please hit subscribe, and we shall catch you in the next one, guys. Take care, and ta-ra. Bye-bye.